Progress.
Okay, good evening everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. You know, whenever there's a delay, that means it's a big shir. The more important the shir, the more the Yetzer Hara tries to interfere. Kal hagadu mechaveroi, yitzroi gadu mimeno. That's true in terms of time, it's true in terms of shiurim. The more important the shir, this might be the most important shir you'll ever hear. Or at least the most important shir you'll ever hear today. Or in the last hour. We're continuing the shir on Sefer Vayikra. We want to thank Dr. Zaka Mushtachta for dedicating the shir of Sefer Vayikra. Lilo Nishmas of Shom Eliezer, Ben Rav Yaakov Zakaim. Lilo Nishmas Dr. Zakaim's mother, Rivka Bas Tovia Halevi. Rav David Ben Rav Yaakov Tzvi HaKohen. Began Eden Temenu Chasam. They should be Melitza Yisham for their whole family. Ad Bias Gold Tzedek. Tonight's shir is dedicated by my dear friend, Rav David Weber, who is first to come to the shir every Wednesday night, and to help set up. Today is his father's yahrzeit, Neshama Shem Aliyah, Yitzchak Doiv Ben Alter Avram, and his Neshama Shem Aliyah be a male Yosef for his whole family, for Simchas Sanachas, B'suras Toivos, good health, Ad Bias Gal Tzedek. Tonight's shir is also dedicated by my dear friend in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Yaakov Mizrahi, Tavai Alav Bracha. Tonight's shir is dedicated by my dear friends Rabbi Yisrael Meir and Avivit Mikli, Le'iloi Nishmas Rabbi Zachariah Wallerstein, whose yahrzeit is today, who is one of the great mashpiyim of our time, and his Neshama Shem Aliyah should be a male Yosher for his family and for all his Talmidim and for all of Klal Yisrael. Began Eden Temenu Chasai, Zachariah Shimon Ben Rabbi Yitzchak HaKohen. Okay, we have a very important shir today. This week's parsha is Parshas Kedoshim. Kedoshim Tiyu, you should be holy. How exactly should one be holy? What does it mean to be holy? So, I don't know, you wake up early, go dunk yourself in a mikvah, go sit and put on your talis and tefillin, and sit in the shul with your talis over your head. It's best to go like this, like every so often, you know, at regular intervals. Also, if you could go like that with your eyes, like flutter them. And best that you can't even see the black of the eye. Like, the more you could look like you're in another world, obviously the holier you are. But the answer is that has none of those things have anything to do with holiness. Most people have no idea what holiness is. Mesil Sisharm says that true saintliness is not only something we don't know about, it's far from even our imagination. The Mesil Sisharm writes, Ki ha-chasidus ha'amiti hu rachaik mitzir sechleinu. It's far from what we could imagine. We have all kinds of fantasy or fairy tale imagery of what it means to be a tzaddik, and very little of it is based on reality. Today we're going to learn about an endeavor that man is involved in every day of his life practically, and multiple times. And if there's any area in life that the forces of impurity and the Yetzer Hara have so overtaken it that it doesn't bear a resemblance of the way it should, it's probably this endeavor. And it's the opposite of anything that somebody would think. In other words, if I were to ask you, what is the holiest time of the day? What is the most elevated time of the day? Well, the correct answer is Wednesday night at 8:30. Besides that, say, I don't know, when I'm learning, when I'm davening. What time of the day should a person cleave to Hashem more than any other time? Comes the Shla HaKadosh. The Shla HaKadosh says, Haklal ha'oila, here's the rule. Shebe'ez ha'oichel yeh libay shal adam medubak b'Hashem yoiser mikol hayom. That at the time of eating, you should cleave to Hashem more than the rest of the day. The holiest time of the day is when you eat. Not when you daven, not when you learn, when you eat. V'zehu bana av. This should be the paradigm. The pasuk says, "Vayechazu es halokim." They gazed at God, vayoichlu vayishtu, and they ate and they drank. What does that mean? What's the connection between gazing at God and they ate and they drank? Says a Shla HaKadosh. The explanation is they contemplated and they looked at the kavod of Hashem while they were eating and drinking. In other words, many people say, look, I did my davening, I did my learning, and now's when I want to indulge my physicality. And that's why many people view eating as just some kind of very immersive and physical type of activity. And people figure, well, look, I'll do as much of it as I can. Meaning, in other words, we ask most people, how much could or should I eat? As much as I physically can. As much as the tank holds. Because, after all, what is eating? Eating is just, if you ask most people what their attitude toward food is, it's a way of getting pleasure. We don't live in Europe. In Europe, they ate to keep themselves alive. Nobody in America eats to keep themselves alive. Eating is just a way of pleasure. So really, if I could eat from the moment I woke up until the moment I would go to sleep, people would do that. The only thing is, they'll get sick. But if you ask people, what's the purpose of eating? It's pleasure. And how much of it should you do? As much as you can. People exercise not to be healthy, to eat more. Because they don't... many people, they exercise in order to eat. Or they sometimes don't eat to be able to eat more later. But we're going to learn this evening the proper attitude to food, which is good not only on a religious level, but on a health level. And it is a very important component, and according to the Shla, in a way, the most important chelek of Avodas Hashem. So today's shir is going to be about 10 things to think about while you're eating. Say, I don't want to be thinking about anything while I'm eating. I just want to take out my phone and go like that. And look at the same dumb, made-up reports. They are going into Rafah. They're not going into Rafah. They are going. They went. No. Biden said they can't go. No, they did it already. He's giving them... On the minute, they make up new information that has no bearing on reality. It's because of you that you click on it millions of times that they hire people to change and make things up just to keep you occupied. So if you're not interested in elevating your life, continue to look at fabricated nonsense while you eat. But if you would like to elevate one of the most important aspects of Avodas Hashem, we're going to learn 10 things to think about while you're eating. Number 1, the pasuk says in this week's parsha, "Kedoshim tiyu," you should be holy. So what should you be? What does that mean to be holy? What does it mean to be holy? I don't know. Holy means to have a very, very long beard. Holy means you should dunk in the mikvah multiple times, like hundreds of times. What exactly does it mean to be holy? We're going to see one of the most important elements of being holy is eating properly. And if somebody does not control the way they eat, it reflects a lack of holiness. The Shla Kadosh says, here is the clue. The clue here is a pasuk in Parshas Re'eh. V'achalta lifnei Hashem lekecha. You should eat before Hashem your God. This teaches you that when you eat, you have to imagine standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, I know you don't want to do that, but be open, The Shla Kadosh says, Tzarech ha'adam l'skadesh al shulchanu b'sudas. One has to sanctify themselves at the table. Amru Rabbi Seinu, Kedoshim tiyu, Kadesh atzim chabel mutalach. Al kain, therefore lo yia gargaran. Don't be a glutton. It's not. Don't fill up the tank. In other words, this is not a car. A car, so you fill it up until it says full. But they say don't top it off. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Don't top it off. Once in a while, after it finishes, right? You click it again. You're like, is anything going to happen if you click it again? You can do it a couple times, right? Your body is not a car. You're not supposed to fill it up until it gets to full. So how much should it be? We'll see. But the first thing is you have to have the right attitude. The attitude is Elaka'oicha lifnei melech hakavod. Imagine you're eating in front of an honorable king. Could you pass it again? Pal, this is your fourth helping of it. Would you do that if there was an honorable king in front of you? Or you would you would use some discretion. You would eat within means. If you're sitting in front of a dignitary and you're hungry, you would eat like a respectable amount, but at a certain point you would probably have some shame, like maybe you would eat more at home, but not in front of him. So imagine you're in front of an honorable king. Who is that? Mi hu zeh melech hakavod, Hashem tzavakos. Says the Shla, Tachshoiv b'shas achilascha sha'ata oichel lefnei ha'elokim. Think when you eat that you're standing, you're eating before God, and there's no interposition between you and the Rebbeinu Shem. And if you have this thought, it will bring to Kedusha, it will bring to purity, it will bring to humility, it will bring to the fear of Hashem, and you will not be eating just to give in to your desire. Okay, so that's the first thought, and that's the most important thought of all. Namely, whatever you're having for supper. What do you have for supper tonight? Nobody wants to say now. I know you had a piece of salmon and asparagus, and no, I'm joking. What did you have for supper? Schnitzel. So when you ate your schnitzel, you think, holy schnitzel. I'm eating in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm oimed of a. They're going to tell them that they should get a free advertisement. They should shetachshoy b'shas achilosha ata oichel lefnei Elokim. Number one, that's number one. Number two, when a person thinks about the activities that they could do to elevate themselves, one of the highest levels a human being could reach, obviously, is to have Ruach HaKodesh, the divine spirit. Nobody has that today. But the Arizal certainly had Ruach HaKodesh. So what did he do to have Ruach HaKodesh? The Arizal says, it's brought in the Kaf HaChaim, it's called in the Shar Ruach HaKodesh, that Reb Chaim Vital says, the Arizal said, the main way to achieve Ruach HaKodesh is dependent on having kavana when you make brachos on food. Learning is good, but that's not what's going to propel you to the greatest heights. Davening is wonderful. It's the proper bracha on food. Why? Because all food has klipos. What are klipos? Klipos are impurities. But I'm not talking about, red 15 and blue 4 and all the chemicals they put in the food. Whether that harms you or not, I don't know. Can't tell you. I never did any independent studies. But every food has impurities, spiritual impurities. And when you make a bracha, you cleanse the food. And not only do you remove it from the klipos, it purifies it. The food becomes tahar, it becomes kadosh, and it elevates you. And actually, the Reb Chaim Vital says, "V'goyrem shefa elyon," and it causes a bounty of spiritual influence. So if, let's say, you're eating a piece of schnitzel, if you make the proper blessing on it, you think Baruch Atah Hashem, you're the source of blessing. You say Hashem's name. You think the meaning of it, how it's written, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Hashem was, is, and will be. He's the master of everything. Elokeinu, my God, who's powerful. Melech Haolam, King of the world. Shahakol, that everything, Niyah, came about, Bidvarai. That becomes not just regular schnitzel. You know what it becomes? Holy schnitzel. Okay? It's a holy piece of chicken. It elevates you. It sanctifies you. A few days ago, the chicken was buck, 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 he was pecking around. And now, the chicken is a davar kadosh. How did it become holy? I sanctified it. How did I sanctify it? By making a bracha. The Shla HaKadosh says, more than any blessing you make, you should be mechavein on the brachas of food. Now the Shla says, because it's so physical, it could make you be more immersed in the physical world, and it can make a person arrogant. But according to what we're learning from the Ari, we understand why more than any other bracha, one should be mechavein properly on brachas on food, because by being mechavein for brachas on food, the food will elevate you. Okay? So now this is going to completely revolutionize the way you eat. Most people, they go into the meal, they take off the jacket, they roll up the sleeves, they put on the bib, and they dig in, But now it's almost like I don't know, maybe you should put on a kittel or something, However you are for davening and for learning, for eating, it's kedusha on steroids, okay? You take it to the next level. Okay, next. Now this is a Kabbalistic practice. The Mishnah Berurah brings it down. Maybe maybe you remember your grandparents used to do this. There's a Kabbalistic practice. Before you eat, you pray for your food. You pray for your food. So what do you mean pray for my food? It's the schnitzel's on the table. The schnitzel's getting a lot of mileage tonight, yeah? The food's on the table. What do I need to pray for it? It's one thing, you figure, after last night, who knows what's going to be tonight, If you want good Sheva Brachas Torah, you could say, when a couple gets married, it's like building, it's like a Mishkan, it's a virtual Mishkan. Why? Just like in the Mishkan there were burnt offerings, so too in the beginning, she serves burnt offerings. You like that one? Okay. Anyway, no, because now it's wedding season. I had a lot of weddings this week, but there's a Kabbalistic practice. Before you eat, you daven for your food. So you say, okay, when exactly should I daven? What should I say? The Mishnah Berurah brings down, Kasvu Hasfarim. If the Mishnah Berurah says, it says in the books, it means in the Kabbalistic works, that it's a mitzvah for a person to pray every day for his food before he eats. Now, what if you forgot to daven and you already washed Netilas Yadayim? Says the Mishnah Berurah, many hold you could still daven and be mafsik. Why? Because you shouldn't eat before you pray for it. So it's not a hefsik. Just like you're allowed to say pass the salt after Netilas Yadayim, before you eat the hamoitzi, you're allowed to daven. By the way, what tefillah do people say? Mizmar leDavid, Hashem ra'i lo yachzar, b'nois desha. Old-time Jews would say Mizmar leDavid dafka after Netilas Yadayim, before they made hamoitzi. Now I understand why. How many words are in Mizmar leDavid? 57. Gematria is zan, because you're praying for your food. However, it's better to take a bite and then say Mizmar leDavid. There's nothing to do with Shabbos. There's nothing to do with Shalosh Shudas. It's at least once a day. Before you eat, you should pray for your food. How should you say it? You could say Mizmar leDavid. Here's another option. You ready? Hashem, please provide me with food. That works. Hashem, please provide me with food. It's 6 words. You don't even have to say, you could turn heavenward, you say, please provide me with food. There's a mitzvah to daven daily for your food. In fact, the Shlach HaKadosh says that he refers to this tefillah of tefillah hamazon, that it's brought in the Zayar, that sheyispalel adam al mazaynoi, and the Reishis Chachma suggests that every day after davening, maybe when you're untying your tefillin, or maybe on your way home, say, Hashem, please provide me with food today. The Shlach HaKadosh says that some righteous say like this: You atahu alekim hazan mefarnes umachalkel b'chastacha l'chol bruav mikarne re'imim ad beitzei kinim. You, Hashem, who sustains and supplies in your kindness all of your creations, from the great, mighty, majestic rams until the eggs of lice. That's also another option. You could say, are you yotzei with the Posech Yadecha that you said in Ashrei? It seems like you should give it a dedicated one. Let's say you don't have time. Every nanosecond of your day is accounted for, and you can't say Posech Yadecha. Then maybe you could be mechavein when you say the Posech Yadecha that it should be your tefillah for food. Says the Shla, if you forgot and you didn't remember that you didn't daven until you washed your hands, then you're allowed to say the tefillah between the tila and hamoitzi, and it's not considered a hefsek. So ask the Shla, what about if the food's already on the table? So terem nikra v'atanena, Hashem answered you before you called out. Should you still daven? Avada, you should daven. You know what you're davening for? You're not davening for a piece of schnitzel. The schnitzel is only going to sustain your physical body. But what sustains your neshama? All food has 2 parts: physical schnitzel, spiritual schnitzel. There's a a element of spirituality in the food. So you're davening to Hashem that Hashem should infuse your food with ruchnius to sustain your soul, which is a very important idea. And that is, food simultaneously sustains the body and the soul. It has a physical component and a spiritual component. So you're praying not for the piece of chicken, you're praying that Hashem should infuse the food with a spiritual component to keep the neshama alive. Okay, you ready for the next thought? So far you sit down and it's like Ne'ilah, It's like Musaf on Rosh Hashanah. It's, I'm eating in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? So it gives a person some fear of God, some humility. You're oichel lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Number 2 is the idea that through the brachos you make on the food, it brings a person unparalleled aliyah, unparalleled elevation. Number 3, before you start eating, you offer a prayer for the food, even if it's already on the table. Number 4, you ready for this? Before you eat, you do tshuva. Before you eat, you do tshuva. We once spoke about this. We once spoke about daily tshuva. The Reishis Chachma says, if you're a Baal tshuva, you should say vidoy before you eat. Says the Shla, in my opinion, every kosher Jew should say vidoy. And in that case, then his eating, we know that your table is like a mizbeach, and your eating is like a karban. So every karban needs vidoy. So therefore, before you eat, you should say vidoy. What should you say? Should you go, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu, Doifi, Ananana. First of all, you don't have to do the Ananat part. And you don't have to say the whole vidoy. It's interesting, the Shla HaKadosh says, what about Shabbos and Yom Tif, that you don't say vidoy? So instead, the Shla says, say the pasuk, Umal Hashem Elokecha Es Levavcha V'Yas Levav Zarecha, that Hashem will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants. And then Ulaharher Tshuva Belev, and then you could think tshuva. So, whether we're on the Madrega to say a full-fledged vidoy before every piece of schnitzel, maybe not, but you could be Maharher B'tshuva. Now, at first, this sounds like the furthest thing from our mind. We should, what's going on? What am I about to do that's so important? The answer is you're about to eat. Eating is a carbon. Your table is a mizbeach. So, you want to be in the proper frame of mind. So you do tshuva before you eat. And this way, you're always clean. Imagine if every time you ate, you did tshuva. So you'd be sparkling clean, Your soul would be very hygienic. Many people, they wash their hands before they eat, after they eat. Many people shower like once a month at least, right? So, and some people even shower once every 10 days. Some people even once every couple days, no? But imagine if you would shower every day, you'd actually be clean, right? So too, if you did tshuva every day, why do tshuva, right? When you hear it, I say, some people shower once a week. They say, I'm not sitting next to that guy. But why would you sit next to a guy that does tshuva once a year? Why would you want to be the guy who does tshuva once a year? Every meal. What a good habit that would be. That would be a good hanhaga. Next. Okay, you ready for this? The pasuk says, "Rak asher ye'achel l'chol nefesh hu levadoy ye'yasalai, ye'yasalachem." Only what will be eaten by your soul you should do for yourself. The way the Shla HaKadosh interprets it, a person has two nefashos, the living soul and the intellectual soul. The living soul is nourished by the supper you ate, by the chicken you ate, by the schnitzel you ate. What did you drink? Diet Dr. Pepper. Fresca. Okay, that's a good choice. Okay, you're saturated by the fresca. But what feeds and saturates your soul? The answer is Your soul, what nourishes the soul? I mean, the soul is a living entity, and everything needs food. You know, Moshe Rabbeinu, it says in Parshas Ekev, Lo al halechem levado yechia adam. Man cannot live on food alone. Ki al kol moitza pi Hashem yechia ha'adam. Ki lo al halechem levado yechia, ki al kol moitza pi Hashem yechia ha'adam. That means the physical person is nourished by physical food. But what is the soul nourished from? You ready for this? So before we learned that when you make a bracha, it infuses the food with a spiritual component. But here the Shlach HaKadosh says, the spiritual nourishment comes from what you think when you eat. Isn't that amazing? It's a little scary, because that means we're probably all very hungry. Our souls are probably very hungry. Think about it like this. People, in America, what do they recommend? 2,000 calorie diet? So most Americans have what? 20,000 calories? A regular kiddush Shabbos morning, how many calories is that? You've already fulfilled the quota, right? But what nourishes the soul? The answer to what nourishes the soul is the thoughts you have. So it's very important to have the right thoughts when you eat, because that's your spirit, that is literally nourishing your neshama. So the Shlach HaKadosh says, so what are examples of spiritual thoughts to have to give you nourishment? So he gives a few examples. If it's a Sudas mitzvah, like on Shabbos or a Siyum, the fact that it's a mitzvah, it nourishes the soul. Yeah, but today was Rosh Chodesh. But on a regular day, he says, well, if I'm thinking, well, does that, what's the hechsher on the fresca? It's an OU. Where is the OU? Is it on the cap? Is it on the, what's the shchita on this piece of schnitzel? When a person thinks about the halachos, am I fleishiks? Am I milchiks? Did I just eat fish? Do I need to rinse out my mouth first? All the thoughts of halachos, of eating that a person has, also nourishes the soul. But number 5, and this is the 5th kavanah to have. You ready? The 5th kavanah, 5th thing to think when you eat, and this is literally going to provide nourishment for your soul, is I'm eating to be healthy and to keep myself alive. No, I'm not eating because I'm indulging in pleasure. That's not a noble thought. But it is a noble thought. I'm eating now. I just worked the whole day. I'm very hungry. I'm going out to a shiur. I need to energize myself, to keep myself going, to do mitzvahs, to daven, to learn, to keep myself alive. Even just to think, if when you eat, you think, I am now eating to do the mitzvah of keeping myself healthy, that thought is food for your neshama. What's the kavanah? Look in Hey, number 11, paragraph 2. Third line, hasid haguf ulahavriyoi, to satisfy the body and to keep it healthy. La'amoid l'shareis lifnei aleikav, to serve before Hashem. B'toshios ha'torah, because the Torah weakens a person va'avoda. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. Look in the next paragraph. He says, V'ha'ish hanilbav, any sensitive person, kol yamav hu oichel sudas mitzvah. His whole life he eats a sudas mitzvah. She'ein kavanasa belechem shar oichel rak lahavri ulahamid gufay nachain. The kavanah that he has when he eats is only to keep himself healthy and in a proper state and ready to do avodas Hashem. So he said, you just destroyed, the only enjoyment I have. I come home after a long day, and now what? Now it's like Ne'ilah time. I'm imagining standing in front of Hashem, and I have to eat to be healthy. So now what? I can only now think about what my meal is going to consist of if I'm eating to be healthy. I'm going to be eating kale and asparagus and omega-3 rich legumes. I mean, I'm not going to have any enjoyment. So here's my chiddush. The Shlach HaKadosh doesn't talk about this because probably they didn't need this in his time. But I would imagine that part of good health, I don't know, this is again my personal conjecture, is that part of good health is you have a certain enjoyment from the food. If you don't enjoy it, then first of all your appetite is not going to be whet, and there is a certain psychological element of it that if it has a good flavor and it has a good taste and I enjoy it very much, whether it's good for the cholesterol or it's good for all the various parts of the body, but within moderation, it's good for my mind. You're allowed to enjoy life. Hashem wants you to be happy in this world, within moderation. So if your kavanah is, look, this is not making me more physically healthy, but I'm partaking of this enjoyment, so I should be happy and in a good mood, so I should be able to be alive. Alive doesn't mean, the doctor comes and he listens to your, the heart is still beating. Alive! You're enjoying life. So with the proper moderation, I would think that would also be a noble kavanah. You could ask people greater than myself, but I would assume that would be incorporated. In other words, if one's kavanah is, I'm eating to keep myself healthy in an overarching sense of emotional health, that would also be part of it. Okay? That's the fifth kavanah. Kavanah number 6. You're not going to like this one. Just telling you now.
You have to do it? You have to get it?
No, you don't have to do anything. No, this is a free country. You don't have to do anything. What? Okay, so back to the car. So car, when you're putting in gas in the car, how much gas do you put in? If I'm putting in gas, it's a waste of time to fill it up 3/4 of the way, halfway. Well, you're wasting your life because you have to come back to it. You fill it up to the top. Well, but I have a question. How about when you pour liquid into a cup? Do you pour it up to capacity? That's just not a smart thing to do. What do you mean? It fits more. Why would I fill it up 80% if I could fill it up to the top? And even once it's at the top, through the laws of physics, I could even get higher than the top. I don't know what that law is called, but the
Viscosity.
Yeah, but there's more. The viscosity of the tension, surface tension. Right. The body is not a car, and the body is not a cup. Which means, when you eat, you do not eat to capacity. And I don't mean you don't overeat. I mean you don't even eat to capacity. You don't eat as much as you could. Medically, this is definitely maintained. Yeah, what do the medical field say? Percentage-wise? In moderation. There's the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says in number 12, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. There's a concept in Judaism, Poishe Yisrael Begufan. Sinners of Israel with their body. What is it? Amar Rav. You know what it means to be a sinner with your body? Karkafta deloy manach tefillin. That's a Jew who doesn't put on tefillin. He's sinning with his body. Says the Shla, every sin you do is with your body. Let's say, and you don't put on tzitzis, it's also with your body. And if you don't sin a sukkah, then what? It's not with your body? What sin is a sin not with your body? Says the Shla, the Ramban teaches us the rule is, when it comes to eating, now you're not going to like me after this, you eat 1/3 less than you can. You eat 1/3 less. Now when you think of it like in a vacuum, yeah, it sounds good. Until you're actually at a meal. Now I'm not saying you should do this, but I think the idea is, it's a good idea when you fill up the tank, not to fill it all the way up. Why? Says the Shla. Remember that morning in shul where you had to take off your tefillin? Because you had to step out? Or remember that time you were conking out in your tefillin? Why were you so tired? Why were you so tired? Or why did you have to go to the Beis HaKisei? Because you ate too much. Oh, you know what it means to be a sinner of Israel with your body? someone who fills it up to capacity, and now he can't put on tefillin because he's too tired or too filled up with waste product. Now, I told you wouldn't like that. But that's the sixth kavanah. The sixth kavanah, I would say, for someone living in America in 2024, and you say don't eat to capacity, that's a very high level. I think that's a very high level. I don't think most people have that on their radar. Now, I remember when I used to give a shiur on Monday, and it was in Queens, and it was a pretty large audience. I was very into it. I remember, if I ate this amount for breakfast, I couldn't get through the shiur. I remember that morning I had to eat another half a sandwich to have energy to get through the shiur. I needed the energy. So when we say you don't eat to capacity, it doesn't mean you don't eat to capacity that you should be hungry. No. Most people, if they would eat a little bit less, they would not be any hungrier any sooner. A good chunk of what people eat is only because they can, is only because they want to, not because they need to. Why not? In America, I mean, it tastes good. It feels good. If for a split second, you know, when you think about, but afterwards it's not good. You don't feel good afterwards. Why every single day do you go through the same thing? You say, hey, why did I eat that? So, you know, you need to eat whatever you need to get through the day, for energy, for emotional well-being. This is a certain madrega. The madrega is you don't eat to capacity. It is definitely something to keep in mind and to strive toward. Number 7. Okay, now number 6 was, I'm thinking, okay, I have a supper now. It's America. I could eat as much as I want. I'm going to eat a little bit less. Why? This way, I don't have any issues with my tefillin in the morning. I don't have and nothing is limiting my ability to be immersed in holy things because my body is not just full of food. That's the sixth kavanah. The sixth kavanah is to think while I'm eating, I'm consciously going to eat to my full, but not to capacity. You're allowed to be satisfied. You're allowed to be satiated. The goal is not to ultimate capacity. Number 7, there's another element of why you don't eat to capacity. The Sifrei Musar, Rabbeinu Yoina writes about this. If you're at a meal that has really good food, now you'll say, well, according to this, does that mean I shouldn't go to all you could eat? Of course. All you could eat is considered abhorrent in the perspective of Torah eating. From a physical standpoint, from a religious standpoint, the concept of all you could eat is antithetical to the concept of eating according to the Torah. It's animalistic. It's a human being is created in the image of Hashem. Yeah, it is literally one of the most obscene things that somebody could do. There's no better way to say that. There's no more accurate way to say that. It's abhorrent. Plain and simple. It's not a madrega. But it's cheaper, pal. Be a civilized human being. Pay $30 more for a regular portion, but all you could eat is based on, all of these ideas is really antithetical to the Torah's perspective on eating. Okay, now yes, this will be the most unpopular shiur that I ever gave. Now the next idea is when you're eating, you're going to think, I could eat more. What's a good food? I had a good piece of steak. There's another one sitting there. And there's room. It will fit. There's room. Why not? Why not? So if you're hungry, eat it. If you need the energy, eat it. But if you just want to indulge, then think, you know what, once in a while, I'm going to break my taiva. I'm going to break the Yetzer Hara. How often? Now, we're not telling you to fast. I'm not telling you to fast. We're not telling you to skip a meal. And we're not even saying eat less than your body needs to be happy. But at a certain point, it's just about, why not? It fits. So let's keep it coming. Pal, keep it coming. So now's the time to say, you know what? I want it. Okay, I'm not going to have it. Ooh, you just did a very great deed. You are meshaber tavasai. You broke your taiva. You've elevated yourself above a behema. The Shlach HaKadosh says the secret of the pasuk ve'es ra'avain batechem kechu v'alechu. From here we learn you eat, so you shouldn't be hungry. Once you're not hungry, you've done the job. Now this is, I guess, is this for a general audience? I don't know, we'll find out. So you say, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is my enjoyment in life. I come home and I eat as much as I can. So there's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara says, who's a wealthy man? Tan Rabbanan. Eizehu Asher. Who's wealthy? Kol sheyesh lei nachas ruach ba'ashrei. If you enjoy your money, if you get hana from it. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Kol sheyesh lei beis hakisei samach l'shulchanai. If you have a bathroom near your table, you're a wealthy man. In America, everyone's wealthy. The Shlach HaKadosh says the deeper meaning is, you know who is spiritually wealthy? Someone who could say to himself, okay, I ate, I could fit in more. But what's going to happen? Is this food going to nourish me, or is it just going to end up in the Beis HaKisei? It's just going to end up in a good percent of the food that we eat in America. It goes min hapeh, yashar, derech hamelech, lebeis HaKisei. So, you know who a wealthy person is spiritually? Someone who could say to himself, I'm just eating this to put it into the Beis HaKisei, so then I don't need it. In other words, that's the tactic. The tactic to, so to speak, overcome. Now that might not be the most pleasant thought to have while you're eating, but it might be necessary. But the point of it is, in more civil terms, is for what? For what? What do I need it for? Does it do me any good? Is it doing anything for me? I had a good piece of steak. I had a good side. I had fresca. I had something after. More? For what? What do I need it for? I need to spend extra time in a closet somewhere? Come out already! No, the guy's busy. Why? Because he could. Because he could buy the meal. So the Shlosh says, isn't that ridiculous? Again, I asked Mechila for using these expressions, but that's how the Shlosh puts it. Use some rational thinking.
Discretion.
Yeah. This is an argument. Now, the next argument is really not pleasant. By the way, I didn't force anyone to come to the shir. It came at your own discretion.
You're getting me hungry.
Number 9. Now, after they put a person 6 feet under, now the person can't eat anymore, but now the worms could eat. The worms have been waiting for you for a very long time. Boy, do they have a good meal. The thing is, the more you ate, the more the worms are going to eat. So when you reached your near capacity, say, do I really need to be feeding worms? Do I really like worms so much that I'm going to be eating more to feed worms? Pal, why do you like worms? Why do you want to feed worms? Did the worms ever do anything for you that you're being so magnanimous and so kindly to them by eating another portion? Do you love the worms so much? Are you friendly with the worms? Do you owe them a favor? What do you have? Is there an inside job you have with the worms? They did something for you. They saved your life. Why do you love worms so much? Pal, stop eating. You're just helping out the worms. That's another thing to think about. Okay, we'll try to finish before Marav. Number 10. This is more pleasant. So I made 11 because in case between the Beis HaKisei and the worms you want to take one of them out, you can't handle both. I'll let you take out one of those, okay? Number 10 is like this. This is from Rabbi Victor Miller. You're starving. Think about what Hashem did for you. He gave you a piece of bread. He put into someone's mind that if you cut that thing growing in the field and you crush it up and you mix it with water and you put it on a fire and you bake it, you could eat it and then you could put it in your mouth and somehow it nourishes the billions of cells in your body. What did you give God that He gave you that piece of bread? Nothing. Does He have to give you that dinner? No. Does Hashem owe you anything that He's giving you this meal? He's giving you a government hand, He's giving you a freebie. He's giving you a matnas chinam. So the least you could do is appreciate the miracle of the food, the miracle of the eating process, and think to yourself, boy, now I owe Him. Now I owe Him. I have hakar satov to Hashem. I need to serve Him better because He gave me a freebie. There's nothing I did that obligates God to give this to me. This is probably one of the most important things. You know how much you nourish your soul with this holy thought? So you could put away your phone for 30 seconds and you could think, it's a miracle that I have a piece of schnitzel. There was a chicken. I mean, who thought of the idea that this thing that goes buck, 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 you could actually take it, cut its neck, cook it, and it gives you strength. But 10 minutes before, you couldn't even move. And all of a sudden, you're energized because you ate this piece of schnitzel. Gratitude for the food. And finally, you ready for the 11th thought? The Jewish people took an oath. Tidbak l'shoini l'chiki. That our tongue should stick to our palate if we don't remember Yerushalayim. So, but right now, your tongue is not stuck to your palate. Right now, your tongue is stuck to the schnitzel. So that means you have to fulfill your pledge. You should think about Yerushalayim. Think about how the Shekhinah did not yet return to Yerushalayim. Think about how the Jewish people have not yet come back to Yerushalayim. Think about how one day, and pray that Hashem have mercy on Klal Yisrael and Yerushalayim, and He bring us back there. This is a pledge the Jewish people took, that we will never use our palate unless we think about Yerushalayim. So on Shabbos we say Shir HaMalos. Many people say Al Naros Bavel. The ikar is not to say Shir HaMalos, not to say Al Naros Bavel. The ikar is to think about Yerushalayim when you eat. So here's the executive summary. You ready? Do we have a minyan? Who wants to daven? Five? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need one more. You want to daven here?
Yeah, I'll daven.
You'll daven here? You'll also daven here? All right, we'll have a minyan here. And the rest of you are stuck. Okay. So, here's the executive summary. The Shlag Hader says that more than any other time of one's day, one should be mizdabig to HaKadosh Baruch Hu when they eat more than any other time. So here are the 10 kavanos. Number 1, that you're eating in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is no mechitza between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ata oicha lefnei Elokim. Number 2, understand, recognize, remember that with the proper kavanos on food, it could elevate you to the greatest heights, maybe even to Ruach HaKodesh. That's the madriga that Arizal reached through brachas on food. Number 3, you're going to pray for your food. You have a piece of food on your table, doesn't matter. You say, Hashem, provide me with food, provide me with the spiritual component of food. And that is a mitzvah that is even spoken about in the Mishnah Berurah. You do tshuva. You could do tshuva for all the other meals that you ate before you heard the shiur. And to do tshuva, all you have to think is, Ribbono Shel Olam, I regret my misdeeds, I'm not going to sin, and that's it. That's her tshuva. Number 5, you have kavanah that you're eating to keep yourself healthy. Number 6, you think that I'm going to eat, but not all the way to capacity. It's a very high level, but it's a very great accomplishment. Number 7, you're going to think when you leave over, you have this really good dessert, and you leave over that little piece, you're thinking, I'm leaving it over to break my taiva. Then you think about, if you have a hard time doing this, you think, what do I need it for? Where is it going to end up anyway? Either it's going to end up in the sherutim, or it's going to end up the rima v'soileya. Number 9, think about gratitude for the food, the miracle of the food, the miracle that Hashem provides you with food, the miracle that it nourishes you, and the fact that Hashem gave it to you, and He owed you nothing, and He gave it to you for free, and what you owe Him for it. And finally, a holy kavanah to have is to remember Yushalayim when you eat. If you do even one of these 10 things, you're a head taller than almost anybody else. Have a great night and hearty appetite. Thank you very much. Called to